My boss fired me the night before our $54 million launch, saying, "We'll manage without you." I packed my things and deleted my cryptographic key. The next morning, I watched the entire platform crash during the live investor presentation, while Vanessa scrambled to explain why nothing was working. My name is Andrew, and what happened on May 2nd taught me exactly how ruthless people become when power clouds their judgment. It was on a Wednesday when my boss, Vanessa Corwin, called me into her mahogany-furnished office. Tomorrow was our global product launch for Nexra, a SaaS platform I'd been developing for 14 months that was projected to generate $54 million in first-quarter revenue alone. I'd sacrificed everything for this project: weekends, birthdays, my social life, every moment of peace I had left. Vanessa sat behind her desk with a glass of wine, legs crossed like we were discussing dinner plans instead of my career. "Andrew," she said with fake softness, "we've decided to go in a different direction." The operations manager sat silently beside her, avoiding eye contact. "A different direction? The launch is tomorrow morning." Vanessa's smile was the kind you see right before someone stabs you in the back. "We'll manage without you. Pack your things." The air left my lungs. Behind her was the whiteboard I'd filled with every critical launch detail, my handwriting covering every inch. "You're firing me the night before the launch?" She shrugged with practiced indifference. "We appreciate your work, but we need someone who's a better fit for our vision. Nothing personal." I stared at her designer suit, the expensive ring catching the light, understanding exactly what this was about. When someone in power feels threatened by competence, they eliminate the threat. Simple as that. "I knew you'd be professional about it," Vanessa said, leaning back with satisfaction. "Always," I replied quietly. What Vanessa didn't know was that I'd spent 7 years in cybersecurity before joining this company. I understood system architecture, redundancy planning, and most importantly, the critical importance of access control. When I built Nexra's backend, I implemented a layered cryptographic security system that exceeded industry standards. The encryption wasn't just a safeguard, it was the platform's ignition key. Without the master decryption key stored on my personal secure drive, Nexra wouldn't malfunction. It simply wouldn't boot. I'd designed it this way after seeing too many half-baked launches destroy companies through security vulnerabilities. I packed my belongings in silence: laptop, development notes, and my external drive containing the cryptographic keys. As I walked to my car, a strange calm settled over me. Vanessa thought she'd erased me from the project, but she had no idea I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Let me explain how I'd gotten into this position. 6 months earlier, when Vanessa first pitched Nexra to the board, she had charisma and connections, but zero technical knowledge. She'd hired me specifically because I'd successfully launched 2 previous SaaS platforms, generating $23 million and $31 million, respectively, in their first years. The arrangement was clear. I'd handle all technical development while she managed the business side and took public credit. Initially, this didn't bother me. I believed good work would speak for itself. I was wrong. The first red flag appeared 3 months ago when a payment processing bug surfaced. Instead of letting me fix it, something that would take me 30 minutes, Vanessa insisted the interns handle it to develop their skills. They failed twice, causing a 2-day delay. When I finally stepped in and resolved it in 27 minutes, Vanessa publicly thanked the interns at the next team meeting. Then came the budget cuts. Without consulting me, she eliminated half my QA team, claiming we didn't need excessive testing. I worked 16-hour days for a week covering the gaps myself, while she told the board how efficiently she was managing resources. But I stayed because I believed in the product. Nexra solved real problems for mid-market companies struggling with data integration. I wasn't going to abandon something I'd built from nothing. That Wednesday night changed everything. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a declaration of war from someone who'd forgotten a basic truth. You can't launch a product built on technical expertise by eliminating the person who built it. Thursday morning, I sat at my kitchen counter watching the microwave clock tick toward 9 a.m. The launch was synchronized across 3 continents with investors flying in from New York, London, and Tokyo. Millions had been spent on marketing. Everything was ready except for one small detail. I opened my laptop and navigated to Nexra's launch page. The countdown timer showed 15 minutes remaining. Vanessa's pre-recorded presentation would broadcast it exactly, a polished speech about innovation and leadership that made no mention of the person who'd actually built the platform. At sharp, I opened the investor live stream. The camera showed Vanessa on stage with a microphone, standing in front of a massive screen that should have displayed Nexra's homepage. Instead, it showed nothing but black. She whispered frantically to the chief engineer, the same person who'd been promoted over me 2 weeks prior, despite having no experience with cryptographic systems. Investors were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The chat exploded with comments. "This is embarrassing. How do you fail at the starting line? Unprofessional. This wasn't sabotage. I hadn't damaged anything or deleted critical files. I'd simply taken my personal property when they terminated my employment. The cryptographic keys were created on my own equipment, using my own specialized software licenses during my own unpaid overtime hours. They belong to me." Vanessa addressed the restless audience. "We're experiencing minor technical difficulties. The launch will be rescheduled." Her voice cracked on the final word. My phone started buzzing immediately. First was Darren Blake, our technical director. "Andrew, I just heard what happened. I should have warned you about Vanessa sooner. By 10 a.m., my inbox contained 43 emails from engineers, clients, and investors demanding explanations. One stood out. From Vanessa, subject line, call me. No apology, no explanation. Just a command from someone who still believed she held all the power. Mila Foster, from my development team, called. "Andrew, please. I know it's not my place, but everyone's panicking. Clients are threatening to pull contracts." I knew exactly what was happening in that boardroom. Vanessa was deflecting blame onto anyone who couldn't defend themselves. Me, the remaining team members, even the office coffee quality probably. The chief legal officer sent an urgent contact request. They were finally grasping the situation's gravity. Vanessa called directly. Her voice was strained and desperate. "The decryption key. The system won't start. Investors are furious. We need access immediately." "You fired me last night," I replied calmly. "Andrew, don't play games. This company's reputation is on the line." There it was. No apology, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just concern for the company reputation and her own position. "This is business," she continued, her tone shifting to fake diplomacy. "You're a professional. Any proprietary tools or security protocols fall under your employment contract clauses." I'd anticipated this argument. "You'll need to renegotiate if you want access to my personal intellectual property." "Are you blackmailing me?" "I'm explaining reality. You fired the architect and expect to keep the keys for free. That's not how contracts work." After a long silence, she whispered, "What do you want?" I wasn't sure yet, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't return to that toxic environment on her terms. "I'll let you know." At 11 a.m., Darren called with different news. "Andrew, the board wants to meet with you directly. Vanessa's story isn't holding up. Investors are threatening lawsuits." This felt like either an opportunity or a trap, but I wasn't walking into that boardroom defenseless. At 2 p.m. sharp, I entered the executive boardroom for the first time in my career. 12 people sat around a polished walnut table. Directors, investors, legal counsel. I recognized most faces from hallway glimpses or email signatures on messages I was never copied on. Vanessa occupied the head position, immaculate in her tailored navy suit, face perfectly composed. She didn't acknowledge my entrance. Chairman Lance Mercer gestured to an empty chair. "Andrew, thank you for joining us. We believe you have relevant information about this morning's events." "I do," I replied, keeping my voice steady. Vanessa interrupted smoothly. "I think we all understand what happened. Andrew misunderstood his departure terms. There was a breakdown in transition protocols due to sensitive timing." I leaned forward slightly. "There was no misunderstanding. Vanessa terminated my contract 12 hours before a global launch and revoked all my access. She failed to secure the cryptographic framework essential for platform operation." Murmurs rippled around the table. Lance raised his hand for silence. "This isn't about hurt feelings," I continued. "I created Nexra's security architecture under standard high-level development protocols. Those encryption keys were tied to my personal equipment and created during unpaid overtime. When Vanessa decided leadership meant eliminating anyone who didn't match her vision, she gambled a $54 million launch on the assumption I'd either fold or fix everything after being fired. Board member Victoria Hayes, whom I recognized from investor calls, addressed Vanessa directly. "Is this accurate?" Vanessa forced a smile. There were personality conflicts. Andrew was difficult to collaborate with and resistant to leadership direction. The chief legal officer had been reviewing documents during this exchange. "Mr. Green, do you have supporting documentation?" "Complete records, server logs, email threads, project timelines, change requests, security implementation notes." He nodded. "I've reviewed them. They're authentic and comprehensive." Sharp tension filled the room. Lance leaned back deliberately. "Vanessa, did you authorize Mr. Green's termination without ensuring proper transition protocols?" Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. "Answer the question," Lance said with quiet authority. Her professional mask cracked slightly. "I believed the existing team could manage the technical requirements. And now we're facing a failed launch, investor backlash, and potential legal liability because of a belief?" Lance turned to me. "Andrew, what would restoration of the platform require?" I'd prepared for this moment. "Full reinstatement with complete authority over technical operations, direct board reporting rather than through Vanessa, and formal documentation clearing me of any wrongdoing in this situation." Lance exchanged glances with Victoria, who nodded once. "You can't be serious," Vanessa said, her composure finally breaking. "We are," Lance replied with ice-cold calm. "Mr. Green, you'll have a contract in your inbox by end of business today." The contract arrived at 6 p.m., clean, direct, with explicit language. No individual shall interfere with Andrew Green's technical decisions regarding Nexra operation and recovery. At 7 p.m., I returned to the office for the first time since being fired. The floor was mostly empty except for a skeleton crew trying to contain the damage. Mila looked up from her workstation with obvious relief. "Andrew, thank God you're back." "We have work to do," I said simply. I gathered the remaining technical team and laid out our recovery plan. No dramatic speeches, just clear instructions. We systematically reviewed server logs, verified security layers, and recalibrated the cryptographic sequences. I restored the master keys properly this time, with full documentation and oversight protocols. Mila announced. "All systems showing green status." "Excellent. Run full diagnostics overnight. We launch tomorrow morning on our terms." Walking past Vanessa's office at 10 p.m., I noticed her door was ajar. She sat staring blankly at her monitor, looking smaller somehow. For a moment, I considered going in to gloat, but real power isn't about proving points. It's about ensuring those points never need proving again. By midnight, every system had passed comprehensive testing, secure, stable, ready for global deployment. Friday morning I stood in our control center watching monitors flicker as Nexra prepared for its second launch attempt. The energy was completely different, focused, professional, confident. "All systems nominal, 30 seconds, Mila reported. Exactly, Nexra launched flawlessly. The homepage loaded perfectly across all regions. User registration systems handled the initial traffic surge without issues. Payment processing functioned smoothly. Every component I'd spent 14 months perfecting operated exactly as designed. Lance called. "Outstanding work, Andrew. The board is impressed." "Thank you. Just doing my job." "We need to discuss your long-term role here. The board sees significant leadership potential." I attended my second boardroom meeting in 2 days. This time, I sat at the center of the table with Darren on my left and Mila, now promoted to head of development, on my right. "As you know," Lance began, "this morning's launch succeeded completely thanks to Andrew and his team." He didn't say despite Vanessa, but everyone understood. Then he addressed her directly. "Effective immediately, you'll be transitioning from operational oversight to strategic partnerships. No direct authority over technical divisions." Victoria added. "We've decided Andrew will lead product operations permanently with direct board oversight." Vanessa stared at me in disbelief, but Lance continued. "This meeting also serves as your formal termination, Vanessa. Security will escort you out within the hour." She left without a word. In the hallway afterward, Lance approached me privately. The board wants to discuss a long-term leadership position, vice president level. You've demonstrated exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need. I'll consider it, I replied carefully. You've changed how we evaluate leadership here. What happened this week will never be repeated. 3 months later, Nexra had exceeded all first-quarter projections, generating $61 million in revenue instead of the projected $54 million. I implemented new protocols ensuring no single person could hold critical systems hostage, while also protecting developers from arbitrary termination during crucial project phases. Mila knocked on my new office door one afternoon. I think you've made people believe in this company again. That's the goal, I replied. The truth I learned through this experience is simple. Power isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about knowing your worth, maintaining your standards, and ensuring others never have to fight the battles you fought. Vanessa thought firing me would solve her leadership problems. Instead, it ended her career and gave me the opportunity to build something lasting based on competence rather than politics. She tried to erase me from the project, but ended up erasing herself from the company. 6 months later, I heard through industry contacts that Vanessa was struggling to find similar positions elsewhere. Word travels fast in the tech sector, and our launch failure had become a cautionary tale about mismanaging technical talent. Meanwhile, Nexra continued growing beyond all projections. The platform I'd built with integrity had become the foundation for something larger than either Vanessa or I had originally envisioned. The difference was that now it was being led by people who understood that sustainable success comes from respecting expertise, not eliminating it. At my 1-year anniversary with the company, now as Vice President of Technical Operations, I sent a message to all staff. Leadership isn't about control, it's about accountability. Every decision in technical operations will be transparent and earned. My door remains open. Because that's the kind of message I always wanted to hear, but never did until I was in position to write it myself.